Welcome back to Big and Tall Movie Review Show. It's that time of the year again, kiddies, and we're going to discuss some of the favorite horror movies around the Halloween holiday, and people are getting out wanting to see more slasher-type pictures, all sorts of different horror films. And that's when we turn to Maximus, our horror guru, and he's got a few films he would highly recommend for your Halloween parties, adult parties. You're going to sit around and watch some scary movies, and you got to figure out what to watch, when to watch, depending on your mood or what you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Max. He'll start off with some films that I guess these aren't necessarily at the theaters, but they're just maybe more modern horror films that
reviews for the Netflix subscribers.
Yeah, there you go.
Because that's where I'm watching most of these movies.
And so the first film you were going to discuss, I guess, is this movie came out in 2012. This is American Mary.
It was made in 2012. I think it had a very, very limited theater release earlier this year, and now it is residing on Netflix.
There you go.
So,
but
no, just go?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
The story kind of follows a medical student in line to taking classes to become a surgeon in the near future, and she's very strapped for cash. So she starts taking odd jobs, giving people strange voluntary surgeries, alterations and whatnot, and kind of gets sucked into a dark, schemy underworld full of
if you
creepy people.
Like if they need a surgery for something and can't afford it, healthcare.
Yeah, some extreme body modifications.
Oh my!
Voluntary amputations and
such like that.
Horns, tails, and everything in between.
Oh wow! So this is kind of like this sounds really interesting. So did they? This is not a remake or any sort of kind. This is
I don't think it was a remake. I think it's original story as far as I can tell. Stars genre alum Katharine Isabelle, who horror fans might recognize from the Ginger Snaps series.
Yes,
Canadian werewolf franchise that was pretty awesome.
Does this get into the werewolves at all, or is this
no supernatural action happening in this movie? Just very creepy surgical procedures getting done. And
I'm reading here, and it says it's rated R for strong, aberrant violence content, including disturbing images, torture, a rape, sexual content, graphic nudity, language, and brief drug use. So it sounds like it hits for the cycle there on. It's pretty much got it all in there.
Yeah.
Well, she gets towards the beginning of the movie, what kind of launches her towards the darker side of the surgical world, you could say, is something very violent happens between her and one of her professors, and so she kind of gets plunged against her will into
I like the fact, though, it's not just violent, it's strong violent content.
Very strong, very realistic strong violence, not for the squeamish.
So this isn't for the weak at heart.
Yeah, and I noticed this is also directed by apparently these two sisters, Jen Soska and Sylvia Soska.
Can they call them like the Terror Twins or something like that?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and they also wrote the film, directed it. They kind of discuss how they've always had a big thing for horror in a special twisted place in their hearts or something for horror movies, real into Stephen King novels, etc. I'm wondering if they've done, I'm sure they've done some other films. Are you familiar with any of those?
Shorts, I think. Nothing that's been in the...
oh, really?
Yeah,
in
their first big
mainstream
movie. Yeah, I know they've got See No Evil 2, the sequel to See No Evil, coming up from WWE Films.
Oh, there you
Which
go.
I've
could be worth a look.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, and they're also attached to the ABCs of Death, too. So they are racking in the sequels, everybody. Don't know if anyone saw the original ABCs of Death. It can also be found on Netflix. It's an extreme anthology. But if you're looking for a Halloween night flick, American Mary or
would be one you'd want to reach for.
Yeah,
I think for this one, instead of doing a can rating, you should rate it by buckets of blood. How many buckets of blood for this?
Yes.
Well, for buckets of blood, I'm gonna have to give American Mary 3.5 buckets of blood.
3.5 buckets of blood out of a possible 6.
Out of a possible 6.
That's
yes.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
And let me see.
This is a Canadian. This is a Canadian-made film. Then it looks like it was.
Makes sense. Katharine Isabelle's a Canadian actress.
So yeah. Okay, and then the other film you were wanting to discuss, one I'm a little interested in myself, is the 2012 or 2013. I guess it's 2013. Maniac, which is kind of
a remake of the original slasher film
from the 1980 picture. And what can you tell me about Maniac starring Elijah Wood?
Oh wow, it was a real eye opener, and literally you're seeing the entire movie through the eyes of Elijah Wood, who's playing the antagonist, who's basically stalking women all over the city and cutting off their scalps with a straight razor.
Oh wow.
The violence in this movie was so realistic that it had me wondering how the hell they did it.
Yeah, I've seen some footage of this, and it's pretty intense. I've never seen,
And Elijah Wood just plays the entire thing with this emotionless sense behind his eyes that's really, really creepy.
Really disturbing. Frodo going nuts. I could see that I could see him being really creepy in the role. I mean, I've seen some of the footage of I guess this character he plays, Frank, is supposedly he's like a mannequin.
He owns a mannequin store that he has all these mannequins that he's restored, and it's kind of turned it into a sort of a mannequin museum.
Yeah, sort of situation.
And, he meets this art student girl who he becomes completely obsessed with, and basically is going through the movie trying to pursue this flirtatious relationship that's new to him with her, and also try to satisfy his bloodthirst.
His scalping. But this is
he's got a lot of psychological things that, since you're seeing everything through his eyes, you're seeing his hallucinations and how he's seeing the world as something it's really not. It was incredibly well done, and if I remember correctly, it was Alexander Aja, I think is how was the director at this. He was the also the director of the Hills Have Eyes remake, which was extremely gruesome and violent, and also a movie called High Tension.
Okay.
One wants to research this director a little bit. Very well-made, horrifying movies.
Okay. And this the original was made in 1980 and featured actor Joe Spinell, who kind of went with the middle name Joe Maniac Spinell, kind of a famous, I guess he kind of was an Italian guy, had several films. He was
in
The Godfather, and in Godfather 2. But
there's a really famous scene in the original Maniac where Tom Savini's head gets blown off with a shotgun.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it was one of his first makeup movies, Tom Savini, makeup legend.
Yeah, yeah. He actually was in he was also in Machete Kills again. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So, but this, it looks like this movie the newer one with Elijah Wood was directed by Frank Calfone or something like that. But I don't.
So it wasn't Alexander Aja.
Alexander. I think he's tied to it though.
He must have been a producer. I definitely saw his.
Yes, I see it. He was a producer. You're right. And yes, Wood is extremely disturbing in this.
He really knocked it out of the park as far as just leaving the boyish charm completely behind.
Yeah,
and
I've heard a lot
pretty intimidating, scary character.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are so impressed with his performance in it that they're considering he may want to look into this sort of horror role again. Although they think that he could maybe find something like on a different level than Maniac, try to see what else he could do. I said this movie really was kind of a...
Hopefully it opened a door for him.
Yeah, opened a door for him, and I think it was kind of a film with the gore level in this was through the roof. Is what I'm hearing, as far as in what I've seen. So it was kind of like it almost took away from some of his acting skills as being as creepy as he was. So that's what I've heard, but I didn't know what you would think of that. Would you say that's a good assessment, or?
I'd say there's maybe a little bit of truth to that, but I thought they had a very decent blend of the
of
horror
both.
and suspense and
In both
creepy undertones. And there was an actual score for the movie. There wasn't pop songs from the 80s being thrown in at random points. That's more of like the style of the old 70s horror movies where they would actually have a creepy piano score in the back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what would you give can-wise for the Maniac 2013?
Cans or buckets
I'm
of
sorry,
blood?
buckets of blood.
Oh,
I was confused.
it's, I'm going to go 4.5 buckets
Oh,
on this.
wow.
I really liked it. I would definitely recommend it for fans of the genre.
All right. Well,
And if I've got time, there was also a couple horror flicks coming out to DVD.
yes. Go
this
ahead.
week
We
and
got
last
plenty
week.
of time, yeah.
A couple of my favorite films that came out this year, The Conjuring and Pacific Rim, both out on DVD, available at the Redbox, or if you still have a Blockbuster near you anywhere.
Yeah, if they're not all out of it. The Conjuring was really extremely popular.
It was my favorite movie of the year by far.
And obviously, I mean, it's really affected a lot of people we know as far as seeing it and then getting involved and wanting to be involved in the paranormal.
Some ghost hunting adventures.
Yes, very much
There's
so.
also, you left one out to a pretty horror movie, After Earth with the Smith family was about one of the most horrific,
horrifyingly terrible.
horrific 35 minutes I spent before I had to turn it off.
Watch Will Smith sit in a chair and be whiny while his son jumps off of cliffs and yet doesn't die.
Watch the most one of the guys that has the most charisma in Hollywood, show none.
Yeah, with his talentless son in a movie that he has bought for him.
Yeah, well, we
Sorry, Jaden, had to be said though.
No, yeah. Well, we're always into the Halloween time of year, and we like to get into these sort of films. So we hope everyone has a great, safe Halloween this year. And we will be back with more on the Big and Tall Movie Review Show.